On this episode of China Uncensored, Chinese drugs are killing Americans. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. You know how we recently talked about all the dangerous products exported from China? Well, I want to add another one to that list. Drugs. And I'm not talking about prescription or over-the-counter medication. I'm talking about the kind of drugs that make you do this.
Police say 41-year-old Kenneth Crowder ran around naked through this Melbourne neighborhood saying that he was God and performing lewd acts on a tree.
Ouch, I hope it wasn't that tree. Anyway, that man was allegedly high on a new synthetic drug called Flakka. Some users call it $5 insanity because it's a cheap way to go insane. Also to die. At least 16 people have died from it in the past year. Flakka is chemically similar to another group of synthetic drugs called bath salts. It looks kind of like the stuff you buy at the body shop, hence the name. But it makes you act like this.
What's your name?
The active ingredient in Flakka is Alpha-Pyrrolidinopentiophenone? Well, alpha-PVP for short. Anyway, if somehow your life is so terrible that you think taking these drugs is a good idea, where can you buy them? Why, China, of course. Flakka and bath salts are banned in the United States. But, you know, there's the internet. Oh, look, I can buy beautiful big crystals of alpha-PVP from Wanyo Industrial, based in China's Hebei province. Here's another Chinese website, CEC Limited, where you can buy dangerous synthetic drugs. But don't try to contact the owner, Mr. Eric Chung, because Mr. Chung, whose real name is Zhang Lei, was labeled last year as a drug kingpin by the US Treasury. Zhang is almost single-handedly responsible for a bath salt epidemic in New York State. Zhang's company made at least 100 shipments of drugs to upstate New York worth millions of dollars. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency had been after Zhang for a while, but the U.S. and China have no extradition treaty, so there was nothing the U.S. could do. Fortunately, Chinese authorities finally arrested Zhang at the end of 2013. Not for selling bath salts in New York, but because, according to the U.S. Treasury, he was teaching others how to make drugs in China. Though as you can see, his company and its online business still seem to be operational. So you might wonder, how can Chinese chemical companies ship these drugs to the U.S. when they're killing and hospitalizing Americans? Well, for one, they're not necessarily illegal. A certain chemical formula might actually be legal or only banned on a state or local level, but not on the U.S. federal level. Some of these are referred to as legal highs. You may have heard of one of them called Spice or K2, a synthetic marijuana. It's legal, but whereas marijuana won't send someone to the hospital, Spice can, and in many cases has. 70% of all spice sold in the United States used chemicals from a Chinese laboratory run by a guy named Haijun Tian. The DEA arrested him in May when he stepped off a plane in Los Angeles. And if and when lawmakers decide to make one of these synthetic drugs illegal, the companies can just alter the formula slightly so it's technically not illegal, though it may be just as deadly. It's partially for this reason the number of new psychoactive drugs has skyrocketed in the past few years. Another problem is, these chemicals are hard for U.S. Customs to spot. The companies just label packages as shampoo or industrial solvent or cleaner. Customs only has the budget to inspect a tiny fraction of Chinese imports. Of course, inside China, the Chinese government could be much more effective than U.S. Customs at cracking down on these drug labs. The Chinese government has the money and resources to monitor pretty much every aspect of its citizens' lives, so surely they have the power to curtail the drug problem. But when it comes to stopping drug exports, the Chinese government is doing painfully little, even as Chinese synthetic drugs are doing real damage to people in the United States. So, what can you do to stop it? Eat pizza instead. So what do you think should be done about synthetic drugs from China? Leave your comments below. Be sure to subscribe and like us on Facebook. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time. Oh, what's that? You've noticed my new Apple Watch? Yeah, she's quite a beaut, isn't she? But here's the best part. While all you suckers out there paid at least $350 for one, I got mine for just $48. Technically, it was 300 yuan. See, I bought it online from China. It works great. It even syncs up with my iPhone. Remember that passive-aggressive friend of yours back in high school? The one who always was nice to you in person, but then you found out later they were talking some serious smack behind your back?
You're like really pretty. Thank you.
Well, that's China. Only instead of talking smack, China is waging an actual military war with you behind your back.